Today on BRStv, we're going to show you how to build a screen net top for your aquarium. Hi, I'm Ryan, your host of BRStv, where each week we cover a new topic related to reefing. This week we're going to build and install a do-it-yourself screen net top which keeps all of your fish in the tank with a very minimal impact on light penetration. You have two options. Most of these items can be purchased at a big box hardware store, which is probably the best deal, but we have assembled these nice kits with everything you need, including the screen frame, corners, spline roller, and clear netting. The clear 1/4-inch netting is the only part of this project, which is really hard to find, but we have it available here on our site. First step of this project is to measure the inside lip of the aquarium frame or rimless tank to get the dimensions for our new top. We're going to build one for this rimless tank, and the inside dimensions are 46 1/4 by 22 1/2 inches. Once we do that, we need to subtract the corners from the total length and width. Each corner is about 3/4 of an inch. There's one on each side, so we need to subtract both for a total of 1 1/2 inches off of each dimension. So I'm going to measure out and mark two pieces of frame at 44 3/4 and two pieces at 21 1/4. I'm going to cut the frame using a hacksaw. I personally find the easiest way to do this is to not saw back and forth, which tends to catch on the metal, but do a series of backward strokes, which will cut through the aluminum frame pretty easy. You can also use one of these cheap miter boxes, which allow for a much more accurate and easier cut. Once you have everything cut, assemble the frame with the corners. Next thing we're going to do is roll in the screen. This is easier and the results are better with two people. One to hold the screen in place and one to roll the spline, but it isn't that hard to do alone if need be. To look nice, this should be taut and square. Easiest way I've found to do this is first cut the netting to a more manageable size, just a few inches bigger than the frame you're working with. Second, use the natural lines of the netting as a guide. Stretch it out over the frame, align the netting along the frame using the edge of the squares as a guide to produce a fairly straight line. Take a piece of spline and push it in by hand to hold the screen in place. Cut off the end and use a spline roller to push the spline in deep to hold the netting in securely. This is where a second set of hands comes in handy. Stretch out the screen over the top and repeat by adding the spline to each side and attempting to use the screen's natural lines as a guide to keep it straight. It's important to keep things taut so the finished product looks nice, but not so much that the spline doesn't want to stay in. Once you have the spline in, use a sharp razor to cut off the excess and you're done. It's ready for the tank. If you have a plastic trimmed aquarium, all you need to do is just set it in place. With a rimless tank like this, you have a few options. First is using some type of reef safe epoxy covered magnet, or what I like to do is just silicone a couple small pieces of acrylic to the glass as resting seats, which gives us a nice flush polished look. Quick tip for those of you that need to go around something at the top of the tank like an overflow, you can cut the guides off the corners and invert them to create a uniquely shaped frame. The finished product is a little less sturdy but does the job. If you have any questions about this project or advice for other reefers, check out the comments area down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because we release 2 new reefing videos every week. See you next week with another episode of BRStv.